Okay, so here's the start of turn one for our game here. And just to recap, as I said in the other video, the Allies, they can move these two ships here. They can move this one based in the Philippines, and they can also move these two Australian ships here. That's the only ones that they can move. Everything else is frozen in place, and we have the unknowns here, location unknown, which we'll roll for later on. So the first part of the move is generally we take out our patrollers, because these are what, when the patrollers are in an area, they're what's going to control the area. So because this was done by play-by-mail, my opponent will move his patrollers and also his land-based air. Now normally we don't move the land-based air, but because it's a special first turn, everybody knows exactly where all these are going to go. It's sort of a pretty common first turn move is what we're going to do here. So what I will do is I will place all these. Everything is based right here in the Yokosuka Naval Shipyard. And we have an I-boat here. We're playing underneath certain rules that have been modified a little bit from the original game. So the I-boat won't be able to attack the first turn. As I go through in the rules that we're playing by surface, I'll let you know. But right now, the I-boat is going to pretty much stay there. So we're just going to take and put the I-boat over in turn two. That's when the I-boat will come back in. So my opponent is going to move his patrollers and also his raiders that are going to go over to the Hawaiian Islands here. So I'll make those moves and then we'll talk about them when we come back. Okay, so here's the move that my opponent made, bring out his patrollers. Now the patrollers, they can go two areas. When they go into the second area, they have to do what's called a speed roll. And a speed roll is where they roll the dice and they go by this last number here. Now you can see that all of these numbers here are sevens. So that means that they can automatically go into the second one, because when you roll a dice, the highest you're going to get is a 6. So if they have a 7, that means they can automatically make it. He left behind a couple up here to control the Japanese island, because we need some patrollers in each area to control it so that we make sure that we keep the flag here. And that flag means points at the end of this turn. He's flipped some of these over as raiders because they're going to go in other areas. Now these are lower number speed ships. So these have a 4 here. These have 5s and that has a 4. So when you make them a raider, they can automatically go 2, but they can also go a third one. You just have to roll for that speed roll there. So made them raiders so they can go a little further out. So like they can go out to here if needed or over here. But most likely they won't be needed over there. Up in the top here, he has placed his Marine here, and Yokosuka is here. And the reason that this Marine is here is that he wants to take over this island right here at the end of the turn. So this Marine can land on this island and it's going to flip it over to Imperial Japanese Navy. Once it flips over to that, that means that this area right here, the Allies cannot put their land-based airs in here. So he'll either take that one or this one, not sure yet, but that's why he placed this over here. Now this one has another special rule. This one can move 2 areas. That's why it has a 3 there, but basically it can go 1, 2, it can go 2 areas. So this one has a special rule move and it can just go 2 areas. Again, another 7 here. So this was able to go to 2 without having to do a speed roll. So we come on over to Indonesia. The Imperial Japanese Navy, they want to make sure that they take that. They basically want to establish a perimeter of Japanese flags right here so that the Americans can't go anywhere past that. So basically if they establish this perimeter right here, the Americans cannot go here or here in any one turn. They have to first take over controls here to be able to move forward. So in order to do that, we don't have a ship that can make a patrol here, because you can see that that's 3. And anytime it's 3, it has to become a raider. So we use our land-based areas because they can be here because we have Imperial Japanese Navy control there. They can also be here because we do have truck. Now truck also connects to there, so they can be there. And the same way here we have Saigon, so the land-based air can be here. Now you can see that we have a lot of land-based air because there are a lot of units here. So we want to get rid of these ally units here so that we have control of this area the next turn. Now, once you have control of an area in 2 turns in a row, the bases automatically flip over to whoever the controller is for the second round. So you don't always need a Marine like we have up here to land on there to take it over. If you control that area for 2 rounds in a row, this automatically flips. So that's the idea here with these land-based airs here. And because he has a land-based air here, the only one that can attack them is this one right here, the other land-based air, the Ally land-based air, which of course he's going to make sure he shoots that one first. Then he can go after these two, because these two cannot shoot at the land-based air. If they have a night thing, all they can do is run. They can't shoot. All 3 of these cannot shoot. So the only thing that can shoot at the land-based air in Indonesia for the Allies is this 5th Air Force right here. So this is the patrolling turn. Now, my opponent also put these out over into Pearl Harbor here. Just wanted to give you a better look over there. So we also have all of these ships over here. We have a stack of aircraft carrier, some destroyers, and some cruisers here. And all these are over here so that they can carry out the Pearl Harbor turn, which this is, and you'll see that in a minute here. But he just put these over here because that's what you're going to do with them. He hasn't moved these because theoretically, during a move, we put out our patrollers first, then the opponent puts out their patrollers, then you put out your raiders, and then you go to your land-based air, and then finally your Marines are the last ones you put out. But because we're doing this play by mail, and we know how to do it, or what I should say is, we know what the order is, we're sort of saving time here by placing these, because there's nothing really the Americans can do this turn except move these couple ships over here. And so you tend to move ahead a little bit on the first turn because it's got the same every time. So let me show you the next turn, and then we'll talk a little more. Okay, so the Ally player's turn now, and the Ally wants to move his patroller. So what I did was the ones that I had in Singapore here, I took them on over here to Indian Ocean because I want to maintain that flag right there. I didn't have anything in Indian Ocean to maintain that flag. I also took the one in Philippines, in Houston, and put that over there in addition, because leaving them here is just targets for these aircraft here. I have no way of firing at that aircraft with these particular ships right here. The other one is that I have, oops, actually that one over there. So the other one that I had is the 2 Australian ships. I moved one to the Coral Sea here and one to the U.S. mandate, just to ensure that I keep the flags there and to set them up for a different docking at the end of the turn, so that they're not, they don't have to go back to Australia. Now, ships can dock they can be any place on the board, and they can go to the major ports like Australia, Ceylon, Samoa, and Pearl Harbor over here for the Allies, and Truk here, and Naval Yard, and Saigon here for the Imperial Japanese Navy. So if I want to port these guys here in Guadalcanal, I have to have them in that area so they can port there. Same way here, this one can port there after the turn. So that's the idea behind placing them there. So that is pretty much my turn. It's very quick, short, and sweet. Pretty much standard. There's not a lot the Americans can do. So let's move on to the second phase of turn 1, or the next phase of turn 1, I should say. Okay, so my opponent moved all of his raiders that were up here, and he moved 3 of them over there. He moved 2 battleships and this 1 aircraft carrier. And he just wants to make sure that he tries to eliminate these 3 here, because he's going to have some free shots at them, and then he's going to have a normal turn. So by having some of these raiders here that are actually ships that can shoot at the night, these guys can't get away so easy. So he wants to make sure that he tries to eliminate all of them. Over here in the Central Pacific, we have a couple aircraft carriers and 2 destroyers. Now again, these are low number speed roll units here. So by making them raiders, they can easily go 2 over here. They don't have to go roll for the 3rd one because they're only going 2. Same way over here. If you did raiders, you'd have to roll, and if they didn't make it, they would have to flip over to a raider. And if raiders go more than 1, go another one. So if a raider goes like 3, let's say these went 1, 2, and 3 here to the Hawaiian Islands, he would have to do a speed roll for each one of those. And if they make it, they go to the Hawaiian Islands. If they don't make it, they have to go back to port as a raider. So that's how the speed rolls become involved. So by just setting this up, he can easily move them here, and here is where he wanted them. So if you notice that, my opponent now has aircraft, aircraft, and aircraft here to take control of those three areas, to take it away from the U.S. here and U.S. here. He also has patrollers here to take control of this one. He has a patroller here, and there's no way I can reach him with anything, so he's going to get the flag here. He has patrollers here to keep the flag here. And this is going to be the only big battle dispute here, and Pearl, which is at the beginning of the World War II when we got involved, so that's where the battle should be. So let's go on to the next phase, which should be combat. Okay, so for this first round of air raids, we focused on the Hawaiian Islands here. And the air raids mean you get 2 turns of air raids at the very beginning, which means that the Japanese player can launch air raids against these ships here, and he can attack them, but they cannot attack back. That's sort of representing the attack on Pearl. Now, when these ships, all these ships are ported, so they're all in the harbor here in Pearl Harbor. And so what that means is that when they're ported, when you fire at them, generally all you have to do is just get like here above 5 on that one, above 4 on that one. But when they're ported, you have to get above double on these to sink them. Now, let's say you get 6 on this one, that would be resting at the bottom. In other words, that has to be repaired before anything can be done to it. It just stays there. But if you get 11, then that one sinks right there. So my opponent has all these aircraft carriers he's going to be firing with. This has 3 shots, and they're bonus, so that means that he has 3 shots that hit on 5 or above is a hit. And then we roll for damage. And same way here, and then these other ones here are 4. Each one of these have 4 bonus shots at each one of these battleships here. So when you come back, I'll lay out some dice and show you what they rolled, and we'll talk about that. Okay, so the first round of air raids were actually pretty good for me. My opponent rolled extremely bad, and you can see here that when we look at these 3 here, he has a 5 here. This one hit, so he has 1 hit there. Now these 4s go up to a 5, and they get what's normally called a disable, which we'll talk about that later, but right now we don't deal with disables when they're in port. So he has 1 hit there. He's got 1 hit there out of 3. This one, he rolled 4 ones. No hits at all. Complete miss. Whoops. Messed that all up, didn't I? This one here, complete miss. No hits at all on all 4 dices. And same way here. No hits there on all 4 of those. So all those rolls were extremely bad, which is a shame because he really needs to take out these ships. So on this one, we only have 1 that hit. It was that 6 right there. So let's see what the damage roll was. Okay, so for each one of these hits, we roll a damage die. Now this one got 5, so this received 5 damage, which doesn't sink it. It doesn't even put it at the bottom, actually. It has to be 1 above that. So that has a 5 damage marker on it. We'll put it right there. Same way here. 1 hit here, rolled a 5, gets 5 damage. Now the damage, they don't get a bonus. You only get the bonus for the die that you roll for the attack. You don't get a bonus for damage. And then down here, the Pennsylvania was another one that was exactly the same. We got 5 damage on that. Now this one is bottom because it has 4 there. So this one can't go anyplace. This one is stuck on the bottom of Pearl Harbor right there. So they can't go anyplace. So let's look at Indonesia. Indonesia also has 2 air raids. So let's go over there and check that out. Okay, for our first round here, you notice that my opponent had all 4 of these aircraft firing at this aircraft because he needs to get rid of this. This is extremely important to get rid of that one. These 2 not so much, but this one especially. So even after 12 shots, they only had 2 that hit. Now on aircraft, you don't get a bonus, and you have to hit them on 6s only. 5s that get disabled do nothing. So 6s are the only way to damage them. So he had 2 hits there. And fortunately, the 2 die that he rolled afterwards were 10 for those 2 hits. So this aircraft is sunk. Now up here, the Royal went after the repulse, and it had one hit because it does get the bonus here, so that's a 6. And rolling on the damage, ended up with 2 damage. So the repulse got a 2 damage marker there. Now let's go back to the Hawaiian Islands for round 2. Okay, so in this round, my opponent did a little better. He got 1 hit here, and you notice they changed him up for the second round, which you can do. You can change who you want to attack. This one ended up with 3 hits right here, so that's pretty good. This one here, we have 2 hits, so that was also pretty good. 1 hit there. And also 1 hit here. And this last one, no hits. Complete miss. Okay, so here are damage. This one here got 2 more damage, so instead of 5 now, it has 7. This ship, the California, got 5 damage. Rolled 2 dice here. We have 9 damage on that one, so that's hurting pretty bad. We have 5 damage. And this last one, the Nevada, has 1 damage. So not so well in the Hawaiian Islands, but there are some that are bottomed here, some that are very close to being sunk, but nothing actually sunk. So let's go over to Indonesia for round 2. So the second round in Indonesia, my opponent had 2 aircraft going after repulse, had 2 hits there, and those 2 hits ended up with a 3 and a 2, which gives us a total of 7 damage, which is well beyond sunk for that one. The Prince of Wales was attacked by these 2 aircraft, and there was a 6 here. My mistake, there were 2 6s. Laid the dice out wrong. 2 6s hit there, and so the damage from that was 5. So the Prince of Wales has 5 damage. And the Royal had 6 at 3 and 3, so there was no damage roll there. So the Prince of Wales is badly damaged at 5, but still afloat. But the repulse is definitely sunk, as is this land-based air unit here, the 5th Air Force. Okay, so that's the 2 special rounds of air raids that the Imperial Japanese Navy got to take there. And they did some damage in Indonesia, and not as much as they would have liked to in the Hawaiian Islands. But now we go to a regular turn 1. And on a regular turn 1, we pick day and night for each areas. Now we only have 2 areas of battle, Indonesia and Hawaiian Islands. So we're going to go ahead and pick that up in the next video and do the whole regular turn in that video.